All right, strategy fans. You know why we're here, right? Another deep dive into the latest gaming buzz. This time it's ARA, History Untold, which is vying for that Civ crown. And you know us, we want to know if it lives up to the hype, if it's worth the hard drive space.
Huh.
So we've gone ahead and wrangled a whole stack of reviews for you.
We're talking pure Xbox, IGN, even Goddess a Geek threw their hat in the ring, plus PC Gamer, Windows Central, Shack News, and Digital Trends to round things out.
Whew, that's a lot of opinions to sift through.
Yeah.
But hey, that's why you're here, right? No need to spend hours reading when we've done the heavy lifting for you.
Exactly. And the consensus is, well, it's complicated.
Had a feeling there might be a but in there. Everyone seems to agree it's gorgeous, though, right?
Well, for sure. The visuals are a home run across the board.
Windows Central even mentioned zooming in to see individual citizens just doing their thing.
Yeah.
Like that level of detail.
Yeah, they really nailed that immersive feeling. Goddess a Geek talked about how satisfying it is to watch your cities go from, like, little villages to these sprawling metropolises.
So they've got the eye candy down. But a pretty face will only get you so far in the strategy game world. How's the actual gameplay hold up?
Well, at its core, it's that familiar 4X loop, explore, expand, exploit. And, well, you know the rest.
You had me at exploit, but I'm guessing Era throws in some curveballs of its own.
You bet. Particularly with its crafting system, Shack News said it adds a whole other dimension to resource management.
Okay, now we're talking. You had me at crafting.
Yeah.
So it's not just about stockpiling wood and stone anymore.
Nope. You're turning those basic resources into valuable goods that can actually give your cities unique boosts.
So like a whole extra layer of strategy on top of the usual city building.
You got it. Shack News gave this cool example. You can harvest pigs for meat, obviously. But you can also use their tallow to make candles that actually boost research speed in your cities.
Now that's some strategic pig farming. But seriously, that's a great example of how one little thing can have a ripple effect on your whole civ.
And that seems to be a theme with Era, taking those classic mechanics and adding these subtle but really effective layers of complexity.
And for a strategy buff like yourself, that's got to be right up your alley.
Right.
Digging into those intricacies, finding those cool little synergies.
Oh, absolutely. But it's a double-edged sword. While Windows Central was raving about Era being more engaging than Civ 6 in the long run, some reviewers like Digital Trends and Shack News worried that all that depth could make for a pretty grindy mid to late game.
The dreaded mid-game slog. A classic pitfall. What's the culprit in Aura's case?
Sounds like a few things. Digital Trends mentioned the micromanagement the crafting system demands, which is fun at first, but as your civilization gets bigger, managing all those production chains across multiple cities can get tedious. And Shack News pointed out this UI thing that could be a deal breaker for some. Like, the game doesn't really tell you when you've got better parts to upgrade your buildings with.
Oof, I can see how that would get old fast, especially when you've got a sprawling empire and a zillion farms to upgrade.
It's like you research these awesome new metal tools, but then you got to go in and manually upgrade every single farm in every single city. They need a mass upgrade button or something.
Real. Sounds like a recipe for late game fatigue.
Yeah, managing that huge empire can get overwhelming, which I know you like a sense of control over your games, so.
Definitely something to keep in mind. But hey, enough about farms and workshops. Let's talk war. Because it wouldn't be a historical strategy game without a little conquest, right? What the reviewers have to say about Ara's combat?
Bit of a mixed bag there. Shack News mentioned the unit types have that classic rock, paper, scissors dynamic, so you can't just steamroll everyone with a giant army of spearmen.
Which is a good thing. Keeps things interesting. What about the actual battles? Any cool units or mechanics?
Goddess a Geek had a blast with it. They were talking about commanding chariots and archers. Then later on, they graduated to these naval battles with warships. Oh, and they really dug the simultaneous turn system. Apparently, it makes multiplayer way more engaging and fair.
Ooh. Real-time strategy on ICs. Sign me up. But hold on a sec. We talk about how Aura adds layers of complexity to everything. What about when it comes to war? Does my usual warmongering strategy still fly?
That's where it gets interesting. Shack News pointed out that going to war actually costs you prestige in Aura, which historically makes sense, right? Unprovoked aggression doesn't exactly make you the most popular kid on the block.
Unless you're Genghis Khan, I guess.
Yes.
So I'm guessing playing as Gandhi actually gives me an advantage here.
Exactly. But if you're going for that Alexander the Great approach, building your empire through conquest, you're going to have to pick your battles carefully. Like Shack News said, you better win those battles quickly and decisively, or you risk falling behind.
High risk, high reward. I like it. But this is really cool, though. It's like Aura's making you think about the political side of war, too. It's not just about brute force anymore. It's about maintaining your reputation on the world stage,
Right. It's adding those layers of complexity again. You got to be a more thoughtful, strategic leader.
which I know you can appreciate. But what about diplomacy? Can I forge alliances, backstab my enemies, get my espionage on? Or is it all just trade deals and declarations of war?
That's one area where Aura might leave you wanting more go-to geek, like the simultaneous turns for multiplayer. But they said diplomacy itself is kind of limited, mostly trade agreements and declarations of war. Not a lot of depth there.
More World War I than Game of Thrones, then.
Pretty much. So if
All
you're
right.
all about those intricate diplomatic scenarios, Aura might not scratch that itch.
Good to know. And speaking of potential itches that might not get scratched, what about the AI? Because for a strategy mastermind like yourself, a predictable AI can really kill the fun.
And that's another area where Aura seems to stumble a bit. Spezia Games did not hold back. They said the AI's motivations are practically impossible to figure out.
So we've explored this beautifully crafted world of Era, History Untold.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of a head scratcher, right? Amazing visuals, cool crafting system.
Yeah.
But then you've got those UI quirks and the AI seems a bit all over the place. So for our listener out there who lives for that deep strategic experience, wants to feel like they're outsmarting the game, where does that leave Era? Is it worth taking the plunge?
That's the million-dollar question. And honestly, it really depends on what you're looking for in a strategy game.
All right, so let's break it down. What are the big things our listeners should be considering here?
Well, if you're someone who loves the city building aspect, right? Getting into the nitty-gritty of optimizing those production chains and really geeking out over crafting Aura might just be your jam. Sounds like they really nailed that part.
But, and this is a big but, if you're after that truly immersive strategic experience, with clever diplomacy and an AI that's challenging but still predictable, Aura might leave you feeling a little cold.
Yeah, it's like they poured all their energy into the city management and crafting, but the diplomacy and AI feel kind of tacked on, like they're still figuring those out.
Which, hey, for a brand new game, it happens. Look at how much Civ has changed over the years. Who knows, maybe Oxide Games will smooth out some of those rough edges with updates and stuff.
Absolutely. It's definitely one to keep an eye on. Check back in a few months down the line, see what people are saying after a few patches.
Good call. And in the meantime, if you're really itching to try it, maybe wait for a sale or something.
Can't hurt. At least that way you're not risking full price if it's not quite there yet.
Solid advice.
Yeah.
And, that actually brings up an interesting point. We've been talking about Aura in comparison to Civilization this whole time. Is it a Civ killer? Does it live up to all the hype? But maybe those are the wrong questions to be asking.
Exactly. It's like comparing apples and oranges. Or maybe apples and those super strategically crafted oranges they've got going on in Era. Each game has its own unique strengths.
Right. And at the end of the day, whether you're diving into Aura or any other strategy game for that matter, the most important thing is to find what you enjoy. What makes that game special to you?
Couldn't agree more. Embrace those unique elements and just have fun exploring all the possibilities.
Words to game by. And on that note, it's time for us to sign off. But hey, this is really just the start of your Aura History Untold journey, right? Go out there, explore, experiment, and most importantly, let us know what you think. Hit us up on the socials. Tell us if Aura lives up to the hype for you, or if it falls short.
We want to hear all your thoughts. Until next time, happy strategizing.